users, devices and service providers. The centre wants the Sanchar Saathi app pre-installed on every new smartphone sold in India. The app is supposed to pop up the moment you switch on the new device. The government calls it a safety tool. It lets users check if their phone's IMEI is genuine, block stolen devices and see how many mobile connections are running under their names. On paper, it sounds rather straightforward. In practice, though, it has triggered strong objections from the two companies that control the world's smartphone ecosystem. We're talking about Apple and Google. Apple says iOS does not allow system-level apps it hasn't verified, and giving root-level access on the external app breaks its entire security framework. Google's pushback is different. Android needs user consent for any pre-install. Forcing this app in the setup flow goes against Play Store rules and also requires major internal rewrites by every phone maker. So this is where things stand right now. Manufacturers say they simply cannot meet this deadline. Every model needs a fresh software build, audits, testing. Even stock already in warehouses cannot be fixed in time. The government insists this mandate is for user protection and that the app can be uninstalled later. But they're not going to shift the timeline. Privacy groups aren't convinced. They worry about a preloaded government app setting a precedent for what could come next, especially when there are questions about permissions and data access. What makes this more complicated is that no major global market forces a government app onto new phones by default. So we are now staring at a standoff between the world's biggest tech companies, device makers and the government, all over the app meant to fight fraud. And to discuss this, joining us to shed further light on this is cyber law expert Khushbu Jain and cyber expert Kanish Kaur as well. Thank you so much both for joining us on the Breakfast Club. It's a pleasure to have you on with me here. Now, let me just first break this down. There are two things that we're looking at here. One is, of course, fighting the ecosystems of the two major companies that control these tech ecosystems. We're talking about Apple and Google. And then there comes the legal framework and challenges with regards to privacy. I want to ask you, Khushbu, let me come to you first. How do you view this new mandate?
See, first and foremost, let's look into the intent of the app. The intent is to practically give security to its citizen, to provide for security and safety to its citizen, which is practically a duty of the state. In the physical world and now in the digital world is much more needed. So only thing the app is asking is, the app is providing you options where you can see that how many mobile numbers are registered with your ID, number one, or associated with your number, number one. Number two, if there is a lost mobile, you can check. Number three, if there is any suspected or a fraud call that has come, you can report instantly, or you can check if there is a suspected call that has come to you and put it across. So I feel in a nutshell, if you look into it, it is nothing but practically state performing its duty to give you or arm you to fight against cyber criminals which are omnipresent in the world of internet. Now, coming to your direct question, when it comes to linking it with privacy, because one side is security, the other aspect is a privacy aspect of it. And in that privacy, I would say that yes, when you say that pre-installed apps are going to come in your phone, choice is in a way reduced. But you will also have to see that the goal here is a collective security and a fraud prevention, which can only be done when each and every individual is safeguarded or is covered in this part. Now, if you look into the DPDP Act, because when you talk about privacy, it's DPDP Act that comes in play. DPDP Act also talks about, or it allows processing of data without any consent, number one, if it is defined as a public interest or it is a state function purposes, so long as like security or sovereignty, so long as it follows principle like necessity, number one, number two, proportionality, number two, number three, purpose limitation, and number four, security, and number five, accountability. Now, accountability is the part where I come in place, that let there be an accountability aspect of it. But I think looking into this as government tool to spy or to put a surveillance, I think we should look this into more of a digital infrastructure, something like a compulsory seat belt or a check post that government has to put it in the physical world. Same way, is something which is a public interest goal, and we should not negate our government on that. Rather, we should focus on transparency and accountability aspect of it, which I feel private entity, public entity, everybody should be there, so that in the future there is no aspect of surveillance into it. But right now, if you download the app, I have downloaded it myself. There is no way that this app has an access to your camera, or it has an access to your gallery, or it has an access to your phone book.
All right.
Only thing it says is, if I upload a complaint, let's say I put my number and I register myself, the information that I provide myself over there, let's say a fraud related information, if I provide, that's something they're going to have an access to. But it's not a backdoor entry or a CPIN where you check, you yourself can check in your settings,
All right.
that privacy settings of your phone, that this, how many apps have an access to my camera, number one, how many apps have an access to my phone book. You will see after downloading the app that these apps, Sanchar Saathi app particularly, doesn't have access to any of these things. I have even tried to check my phone number, still there is no access.
All right, let's just bring Kanishk into this conversation as well. He is a cyber expert. And Kanishk, I just want to come to you and ask you, of course, there are concerns with regards to the scope of access to data that it can have on your phone. And while, of course, everyone appreciates that there is a measure in place to fight cybercrime and to make sure that you're better in check of whose devices are under your name and all of that is in place. Of course, it's the mandated installation that has become a problem. So I want to ask you, what's your opinion on this?
See, any app like this one has been existent for a long time. And the users in the country always had an option of downloading it and using it if they feel the need. And similar has been the case with other apps such as your DigiLocker, DigiYatra, which exists, right? People can decide if they want to use Digi and then take a call. Suddenly mandating the app, and that too without explaining the purpose or explaining why it is being done now. I think that's where the big question comes. And government could have done better preparation, one in terms of probably going and making everyone aware, even the parliamentarians, even in the parliament, there could have been a discussion, or the minister could have explained that we are trying to mandate this app and this is what the app will do. And these are the reasonable safeguards and assurances which this app has been taken under. And the big question which is coming is, okay, you collect all of this data, but what about safety of this app itself? There have been enough questions in the past with respect to safety of such apps, whether it was CoWIN app, whether it was the DigiYatra app, which was recently cloned, right? And the erstwhile DigiYatra app also had a lot of security issues, and it was given to one of the startups as part of a startup challenge, and there were no privacy controls. So at one point of time, the government is talking about mandating and implementing data protection and privacy. But at this other time, you have an app which is made mandatory and pre-installed on the phones, is something that I believe could have been done better.
Right, of course, but to that end, and I just want to bring in this element also, it has been clarified that this app will remain dormant even if it does come pre-installed in phones, which is another ball game in itself, how you will ensure that that is something that needs to be discussed also. But let's say you buy a device and this app is pre-installed, it has now been clarified that it lies dormant as long as you do not decide to activate this app, put in your information on this app. Khushbu, on that I want to come to you. You were talking about whether or not you can choose, you have those options to give access to, let's say, your camera. And even when we download other apps, let's say an Instagram or Snapchat, location, access, all of these permissions are to be given by the user. That being said, as Kanishk is mentioning as well, there should have been a discussion perhaps so that people felt more empowered to use this app and knew what they were really getting into. Do you think that's an aspect as well which is causing such an uproar?
So, okay, let's understand the part that every step government has to take when it comes to performing its duty, when it comes to safeguarding its citizens, when it comes to security, doesn't have to go through every time an opinion from public to put it across. It's not curtailing with your rights, a fundamental right which is provided. On top of it, it is making sure that there is a safety and the security in the world of internet, which is more traveled than the roads today. So I would say that yes, in a very high thoughts, we can say that yeah, I should have been given an option to decide, to be discussed that you're going to do this, but you have to see choice is still lying with you. When the app comes, whether you want to exercise that right of knowing how many phone numbers are SIM cards are issued on attached with my number, or to report a stolen mobile, or to unblock the stolen mobile after you have reported, is still lying with you. But the problem is, citizens need to be empowered. This is more considered to be a preemptive step, because whatever we talk about, 1930, cybercrime.gov.in, or going to your nearest police station when a crime happens, is something which is after the crime has happened. This step is practically a preemptive step, so that government can look into it, that the way numbers are staggering number are there when it comes to cybercrime, which are reported. There are so many which are unreported. To fight with that, this was required. I agree with you. I am with you when it comes to this should not have an overarching issues in the future, because we have seen apps having that option in the future, that they enlarge their scope. That's where I would say that there should be check and balance. But apart from this, I think this is a decision a government can very well make. There are carve-outs in every act when it comes to state performing its duty, when it comes to safeguarding its citizen, and I think it's very well under that scope.
Now, Khushbu, that's really interesting, because you mentioned checks and balances, and I would say that public dialogue and feedback would be a large part of that as well. Ganesh, let me just come to you that what do you have to say about that? Of course, this is a preemptive step. I believe for the most part people do understand that. Concerns do remain, however. What do you have to say?
See, at one point of time, you have Ministry of Electronics and Technology, which hold public consultations and dialogues, right? In this scenario, there was no public consultation or dialogue. There was no information even to the members of parliament. That is basic, right? If government is trying to mandate something at this scale, there was no assurance given. Forget the common man. Even the parliamentarians were not informed in this scenario. What is such a hurry that you have to first mandate it and then get into explaining to the parliamentarians, right? And I'm saying the parliamentary committee as well, which was involved. There's a standing parliamentary committee. None of the members of the standing parliamentary committee were informed as well. And the government mandates this and then gets into the explanation saying, okay, it is safe, it will allow it to be deleted. That's where all the chaos and confusion has come into the picture. Now, most of the people who are today claiming issues are members of that standing committee on IT, right? Why are they not convinced? You have Mr. Shashi Tharoor, who has come out and spoken that, okay, if this has been done for good purpose, then we could have been informed and told these are the security features and functionality. But mandating something like this at such a large scale is something bit.
All right, and Khushbu, you were mentioning the scope also, and that's what I want to come to next. And I will first come to you, Ganesh, because I want to understand from what your perspective on this is as a cyber expert. When we talk about the evolutionary scope of this app and what it can or cannot do going forward, especially with, let's say, AI-driven fraud detection, multilingual interfaces, new security modules, what do you think about that? Because while we talk about concerns, do you think even if those concerns, let's say, are quelled and people are told that that's not going to happen, you still have access, you still have the right to choose whether or how much information you want to give it access to. If we talk about the evolutionary scope here, do you think perhaps that could override that in the future? That could be a possibility?
My view is get an independent assessment rather than talking, because there are two side claims. One is government circular from Department of Telecom, which is floating, which has something which is written, which is completely opposite to what certain leaders in the political arena are talking about. Get an independent technical assessment and make the report public. So all claims, whether it is from people claiming it to be used for snooping, whether it is others claiming it to be safe and meant to do the right purpose, all of it will be resolved. Get an independent assessment done and make it public. And there are enough agencies within the country. You have certain panel auditors, which are even part of the government machinery. Get an independent assessment done. You've got CDAC. Get an independent assessment done from CDAC, or you've got certain panel auditors. There are close to 100 auditors. Trust any one of them and get an assessment done. How safe is the app? The database which is collated, the safety and security or safeguarding personal identifiable information, how it is followed. When certain Chinese apps have come into the picture, we saw DeepSeek coming out. There were big questions asked about its safety and security. The US Department of Defense published an independent assessment report stating that there were fundamental issues with DeepSeek. And that's why a lot of people did not download DeepSeek, right? And same questions come out when OpenAI app ChatGPT came into the picture as well. Now, if we are bringing something at this scale, which is going to impact 1.4 billion users in the country, I believe the fundamental right of the citizens, which is privacy, needs to be safeguarded, and enough reasonable assurances and trust needs to be built before you implement it at such a large level.
All right, Khushbu, let me just quickly come to you on that as well. When we talk about the evolutionary scope of this app, what sort of legal frameworks or safeguards are in place, as Kanish mentioned as well, and what do the citizens need to know so that they're not going into this worried and they don't have these preconceived notions and they are empowered enough to know how to deal with any sort of safety or security issues that may crop up?
Okay, so let's understand. First and foremost aspect, know your mobile connections in your name. That's very important because there are so many phone numbers which might be issued by your identity card and they have been utilized for commission of a cybercrime which you don't know. So one, to know that how many mobile connections are there in your name. Number two, you need to know that what internet service provider, wireless internet service provider you have it. If there is any international call coming to you, you can report that international incoming call. So many digital arrest or other call comes from numbers which are not Indian numbers. Then you can block any of your lost or a stolen mobile handset, because if the stolen mobile handset is gone, somebody can misuse that number, that phone of yours, and do any kind of fraud or something. So you can practically lock it after blocking it, and then you can unlock it if you have received it again. Then Chakshu, which is a suspected fraud or unsolicited commercial calls, which all of us are practically spammed with. You can report that, and then you can know genuineness of your mobile handset if you have bought it, that whether this was genuine, this is somebody else's registered and stolen, and you have been buying that part. These are the features. Now, when you talk about security features, you download this app, you go to your privacy settings in your phone, you check. When you open your camera, you check, does this app have an access? You will see at least 5 or 6 apps in your phone having access to it. It doesn't have an access. I have done it personally myself. I have installed and again uninstalled and installed it to check it once more. I have tried to report few options which I have just told you to see that after I report, does it take an access to the camera? Does it take an access to your phone book? Does it take an access to your gallery? Does it take access to your tracking part of it or your location? None of these places the Sanchar Saathi app, which I have downloaded, has an access to it. On top of it, Truecaller has it. On top of it, other apps that you utilize it have access to all these things where you can still choose not to provide or to provide. But this app option is not even coming over there. Now coming, whether the scope can be enlarged in the future, or when it comes to thoughts which come in my mind or your mind, that is this in a way trying to read or trying to locate me and giving my, invasion of my privacy. I think that's where a little bit more clarity, because I think state actors are more speaking out loud rather than the people who have created this app, and they should bring in more influencers to talk about it, that what this app is all about, to bring in that clarity, so that the purpose for which this has come up is very clearly been put across. But that thought,
absolutely, I believe that's exactly what Kanish has been trying to say as well, that there should have been some sort of dialogue before this was mandated, and you're absolutely right to say that as well. That being said, let me just, Kanish, quickly come to you. Let's talk about big tech and the role it will play here, the Apples and Googles of the world. Of course, there are some challenges that remain on that, and as well, if you could just break it down for our viewers very quickly before we run out of time.
See, the big tech will have to ultimately follow the law of the land. If certain players like Apple or players like Meta have issues, there could be public consultation that could be organized, and inputs be sought. But ultimately, at the end of the day, if you're operating in India, you have to follow what the government is saying. Right? And a lot of times big tech get into this discussion saying that we will not follow this guideline. And it happened in the past as well. Right? This has been done to ensure safety and security. But if there are issues, that could be sorted by getting these stakeholders together rather than these companies making public claims or filing injunctions in the court. That is something which could be avoided if there is proper discussion. And I have seen that Ministry of Electronics has done that in a big manner. We took good 9 years for our data protection bill, but every stakeholder was got into the room, right, by Ashwini Vaishnav, and they were given clear explanations on how they want to build it out. A lot of people were unhappy as well as people who were initially involved, but through a public dialogue consultation, everyone was taken into the discussion. Today, what is happening, because you have not done a public consultation, you have not informed the big tech, the big tech is coming against you. And then you have these narratives which float out, right? All of this could have been avoided.
All right.
Right? All of this.
All right. Of course. Now, Kanishk and Khushbu, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a great discussion. Hopefully, our viewers are leaving this show more empowered. They know what they're getting into, and hopefully, we've helped quell some of their fears and concerns with regards to this as well. And of course, it remains to be seen how this app fits into the larger scope of a more citizen-centric digital infrastructure in India. Thank you so much for joining me on The Breakfast Club this morning. All right, and coming up after this very short break, our person of interest, Rashmi Ganesh Iyer, a woman whose strength is as inspiring as her story. Stay with us for more details on that.
This is
सैल्यूट है जी। आप देश की रक्षा में जान लगा देते हैं और आप घर घर में तार लगाते हैं जी। ई बीम टेक्नोलॉजी से बनी, न जले न पिघले, सबकी रक्षा करे।
हम सरहद पर लोगों की रक्षा करते हैं और आप देश के अंदर। सैल्यूट तो बनता है जी।
अपार अणुशक्ति फायर प्रोटेक्ट वायर, अपार देश का तार।
Stay ahead with News 18. News from your city in your language. Real-time updates, in-depth analysis, and breaking news. Anytime, anywhere. Only on the News 18 app. Scan and download the News 18 app now.
Russian President Vladimir Putin arrives in New Delhi later this week for the 23rd annual India-Russia summit. This is the first time since 2020 and global geopolitics. It also comes against the backdrop of global tensions with Trump, who's had a testy time with India when it comes to trade and tariffs. India is the only country in the world that's paying 50% tariffs. So will the test be really in this balancing act that India has to do between America and Russia? And what can India gain from Putin's big visit? I dig a little deeper. Russian President Vladimir Putin will be in New Delhi on the 4th and 5th of December for the annual India-Russia summit. This is his first visit to India since the Ukraine war began in February of 2022, after which the entire global politics around both defense and energy have changed. This meeting carries significant diplomatic and strategic weight, coming at a time when New Delhi is recalibrating its long-standing dependence on Russian military hardware. At the same time, it's also dramatically trying to reduce its energy dependence on Russia. US President Donald Trump has made no bones of the fact that he wants India to stop buying oil from Russia. He's even slapped an additional 25% secondary tariff for the same. India says the purchase of Russian oil is a sovereign economic decision and cannot be interfered with by any other third party. Over 2 days, Both the Indian and Russian leaders will review cooperation across defense, nuclear energy, hydrocarbons, space, technology, and trade. A key focus area is expected to be the next generation air defense systems, including Russia's S-500 platform. The Russian S-400 was used to shield India from drone attacks by Pakistan during Operation Sindoor back in the summer. India may sign for another batch of S-400s to be procured from Russia during President Putin's visit.
Potentially S-400 additional is not ruled out, but you don't expect any.
Russian President Vladimir Putin arrives in New Delhi later this week for the 23rd annual India-Russia summit. This is the first time since 2020 and global geopolitics. It also comes against the backdrop of global tensions with Trump, who's had a testy time with India when it comes to trade and tariffs. India is the only country in the world that's paying 50% tariffs. So will the test be really in this balancing act that India has to do between America and Russia? And what can India gain from Putin's big visit? I dig a little deeper. Russian President Vladimir Putin will be in New Delhi on the 4th and 5th of December for the annual India-Russia summit. This is his first visit to India since the Ukraine war began in February of 2022, after which the entire global politics around both defense and energy have changed. This meeting carries significant diplomatic and strategic weight, coming at a time when New Delhi is recalibrating its long-standing dependence on Russian military hardware. At the same time, it's also dramatically trying to reduce its energy dependence on Russia. US President Donald Trump has made no bones of the fact that he wants India to stop buying oil from Russia. He's even slapped an additional 25% secondary tariff for the same. India says the purchase of Russian oil is a sovereign.
Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with us. Let's get right into it. Our person of interest today is Rashmi Ganesh Iyer, a woman whose strength is as inspiring as her story. She is a 5-time national powerlifting champion, a mother, a doctor, and now a 2-time world champion. For Rashmi, powerlifting isn't just a sport, it's a journey of resilience, a journey of sacrifice and unshakable self-belief. In 2024, with the World Powerlifting Championship just weeks away, Rashmi had no sponsors, no financial support, and of course, very little time. Most people would have stepped back, but she did not. She sold her jewelry, used her husband's saving, turned every sacrifice into motivation, all this while she was recovering from a back injury and even dengue. But she still went ahead and won gold for India. A year later in Durban, she proved that dedication never goes in vain. With complete belief and incredible grit, she became world champion once again. This time she competed against 390 athletes from 22 countries, brought home the gold medal. Let's bring her in on The Breakfast Club. Rashmi ji, thank you so much for joining us on The Breakfast Club. Now, of course, let's start. Talk to us about this journey from a doctor to a world powerlifting champion. How would you describe your journey to Durban, clinching the gold there?
The journey was quite, difficult for me, from turning my whole profession to medical professional into an athlete. Actually, I'm an athlete from my childhood only. When I was in 5th standard, I started my whole sports journey from then. I was playing karate. I did my whole black belt completed till I was in 10th. Then I started basketball. I did 5 national in that as well. My sports journey is like always there with me all the time. I took break for a few years and then I restart my athletic journey again from 2019. And it's quite difficult because once you stop for a few years, your body is completely changed, your mindset will change and your surroundings also change. So it's quite difficult, but I pushed myself again, like to, restart.
I can only imagine. Please also talk to us about your training routine and how you manage that with the demands of life. Of course, you also had an injury. What did this win personally mean for you then?
Yes, so the game I chosen like after my break, it's a strength-based game. So powerlifting demands very huge physical strength. So the challenge is for me being a woman, to adjust all my daily routine. After that, I have to train for around 2 hours daily. So my training pattern is I have to train in between the day, like afternoon I should train myself, because where I train, it's an commercial gym place here in my city. So I need to avoid that crowd which is there for general training in morning and evening, because I need whole stuff for myself. So the gym is very helpful. They ask me to come in the afternoon and get train yourself without any disturbance. So I manage my training in the afternoon daily. First half I complete my work, because right now I am an international fitness coach as well. So my day start from 6 a.m. in the morning. I complete my whole work till 10. Then I take my meal, I take 1 hour rest, and then I go for my training. And after training I take some rest, and again there is my work for my second half as well. So that's how my day actually looks like from Monday to Saturday.
All right, that is amazing. Now tell us about your medical profession as well and how you made that switch.
Yeah, so I'm a medical student. So I did my microbiology. I did my master's in microbiology, and I was working here in Nagpur as a senior microbiology technician for almost 10 years. So from my internship, I worked only one place. And then I realized like something is, I'm lefting behind, because in whole my career, my journey, and I'm growing up and I'm getting older, I somehow left my athlete Rashmi wala thing behind me. So that's what something is, tickling inside my head, like I should do something. And I never, get fully satisfied with my that job, because that is also me, but something is missing. So I resigned from there in 2017, and I started researching like what should I do now, which game I should select. So that's how I came to powerlifting, and I started it from 2019.
And kudos to you for finding that side of yourself again. And I want to ask, what were the reactions by your friends, your family, when you told them that this is what you wanted to do?
There was a reaction from family is pretty good, because they know I am not, like other girls. I can't settle down for very easy things in my life. So there is something always inside me, like I can't settle down for easiest thing in my life. So family was okay, but yeah, reaction from my colleagues, from my friends, they was like, in your 30s, why you are choosing this strength-based game? Because if you get injured, there is, serious issue will be there, and you can't recover fast. There are so many differences from your body, like you are completely a different person from your 20s to your 30s. So you can go easy, you can choose something which is familiar to your body, or which is easy for you as a girl or as a woman. And one thing which I ever like always hear, like you should go easy because you are a girl. You should not train like a man, because you will look like a manly and bulky. So this thing, my mind can't digest this thing, because there is nothing which any girl or woman can't do. We are more stronger than people or any other person thinks. So that's why I chose this game. And why this game? Because see, everyone wants to get run behind any sport which is already famous, or which is already in Olympics or something. they want anything get back from that game. So powerlifting, I have not seen, because this game is not in Olympics or any Asian game. So I thought, okay, let's do this, because people are not aware about this game, and I might be do something changes in this game, and I should support this game.
Wonderful. And you've urged parents to view sports not just as a pastime, but as a powerful path that can build discipline in children, physical health, mental resilience. Talk to us about that as well.
Yes, the thing is very clear. हर बच्चा कुछ ना कुछ ज़रूर कर सकता है इन स्पोर्ट, एंड ये सिर्फ चॉइस नहीं है. इन टूडेज लाइफस्टाइल इट्स वेरी नेसेसरी टू डू सम फिजिकल वर्क, एंड पेरेंट्स अगर सपोर्ट करते हैं स्पोर्ट्स को नॉट एज अ हॉबी क्लासेस इन योर समर वेकेशन, बट टू चूज एज अ करियर एज वेल, तब आई थिंक हर एक बच्चा इज इक्वल टैलेंटेड टू डू समथिंग. सो अगर पेरेंट्स सपोर्ट करें तो ऑफ कोर्स ऑब्वियसली सब बच्चे आगे बढ़ेंगे, एंड हमारे इंडिया में और ज़्यादा गोल्ड मेडल्स आएंगे.
Absolutely, and that's the hope. Now, what were some of the biggest obstacles that you had to overcome on your path to gold?
सबसे बड़ा ऑब्स्टिकल इज माई ओन माइंडसेट एंड माई ओन थॉट्स. जब हम कुछ नया स्टार्ट करने जाते हैं या फिर जब हम कुछ रीस्टार्ट करने जाते हैं, सो हमें हर तरह के बातें सुनाई देती है, या हर तरह के थॉट्स हमारे माइंड में आते हैं. फॉर माई सेल्फ, मैं अपने स्पोर्ट्स करियर में काफ़ी कुछ कर चुकी थी अचीव, बट इन अ लॉन्ग टर्म मैंने अराउंड 5-6 साल का ब्रेक लिया. सो पीपल वॉज लाइक कि ओके, दे वॉज नॉट अवेयर. जो नए लोग मुझसे अब मिल रहे थे, जो मेरे साथ काम कर रहे थे, दे वॉज नॉट अवेयर, एंड उन्हें नहीं पता कि वॉट आई हैव डिड. एंड इट्स नेवर मैटर कि आपने पास्ट में क्या किया है, आप प्रेजेंट में क्या कर रहे हो, बस यही हमेशा मैटर करता है. सो द मेन माइंड ऑब्स्टेकल था कि मैं अब पहले की तरह परफॉर्म कर पाऊंगी या नहीं. मुझे इस एक थॉट से अपने आप को बाहर निकालना ही सबसे डिफिकल्ट टास्क था. अपार्ट फ्रॉम दिस देयर इज नथिंग, बिकॉज इट्स ऑल अप टू मी. अगर मैंने सोच लिया है तो आई कैन डू इट एनी वे, चाहे उसमें कितने ही ऑब्स्टिकल, कितने ही प्रॉब्लम्स आ जाए, बिकॉज बीइंग एन स्पोर्ट्स पर्सन, ये माइंडसेट ही होता है हमारा कि कैसे हर एक प्रॉब्लम्स को हम ओवरकम करें.
All right, well, beautifully said there. Now, speaking of your mindset, what would you say was your biggest driving force? किस चीज़ ने आपको सबसे ज़्यादा मोटिवेट किया इस पूरे प्रोसेस में?
मेरे अपने जो फेलियर्स है, लाइक अगर बेसिक सबसे इजीएस्ट एग्जांपल दूं, जो मैंने अपने लास्ट कंपटीशन में नहीं कर पाई, वो लिफ्ट कैसे फेल हुआ, वो लिफ्ट में मैं और क्या कर सकती थी जिससे वो पास हो जाता, या फिर मैं अपना नंबर और 5 kg से कैसे इम्प्रूव कर पाती. बस ये एक जो थॉट होता है, दे कांट लेट यू स्लीप प्रॉपरली. सो वो एक नेगेटिव मोटिवेशन काइंड ऑफ इट वर्क्स ऑलवेज फॉर मी, एंड ऑलवेज आई थिंक फॉर एवरी एथलीट्स, कि आपका अपना जो लास्ट फेलियर है वही आपको आगे के लिए पुश करता है.
Truly, I'm in awe of your determination and your resilience. Now, that being said, what message would you like to give to our viewers?
व्यूवर्स के लिए यही मैसेज है कि आपके लाइफ में जो भी एक आपका जो गोल है, जो आपका सपना है, या आपने कुछ ऐसा प्लान कर रखा है आपके बचपन में, आपके 20s में, लाइक कि मुझे ये करना था बट समहाउ वो रह गया, सो आप प्लीज उसे रीस्टार्ट कीजिए, बिकॉज यू कैन रीस्टार्ट एवरीथिंग एज मेनी टाइम एज यू कैन. जो मैं खुद करती हूँ अपनी लाइफ में, मैंने कई चीजें कई बार रीस्टार्ट की है, और अगर आप दिल से कोई चीज करते हो, पूरा हार्डवर्क लगा देते हो, तो यूनिवर्स विल वर्क अकॉर्डिंग टू योर थॉट. सो प्लीज हर एक चीज वो जो रह गई है उससे रीस्टार्ट कीजिए, एंड डोंट रिग्रेट एनीथिंग, कि बाद में कोई रिग्रेट ना रह जाए.
All right, so get back up and reinvent. It's never too late. That being said, before I let you go, I want to know कि आपका अब next goal क्या है?
My next goal is to clear the next world's selection round, and my target is very clear. Every year I should bring one gold for India, and for next year one major goal is अगली बार मुझे वो बेस्ट लिफ्टर का अवार्ड एंड जो वर्ल्ड रिकॉर्ड है वो ब्रेक करके इंडिया के नाम करना है.
All right, Dr. Rashmi, we are in awe and thank you so much for joining us on the Breakfast Club. It's truly been such a pleasure talking to you. All right, and that was our person of interest. Let's shift our focus now. Overdrive gets behind the wheel of the Mahindra XEV 9S to deliver its first on-road impressions, covering space, features, performance numbers, tech highlights and what stands out in daily use. Here's the verdict.
Now, if you always wanted a Mahindra EV but needed that added dose of practicality, you were out of luck. But that's changed now with this new Mahindra XEV 9S. It's a 3-row, 7-seater electric SUV, and let's see what it gives you. Now, as you can see from the front, it's very similar to the Mahindra XEV 9e. So you have that same big, wide light signature, those big, tall, triangular headlamps, and that blank, very EV type look. But here's where things change. You notice the grille, it has more SUV, like a more butch sort of opening, kind of floating. These floating panels give you that slightly more tough feeling. Now coming to the sides, this is where you notice where things have changed a lot. Now this car is about 4.7 meters long, 1.9 meters wide and 1.7 meters tall. But yeah, this is where things change. Now interestingly, the wheelbase 2762 mm is actually slightly less than the 9e, which is at 2775 mm. Now that's been done to sort of accommodate that third row, and the shape also is sort of signifying that. So you have a more upright, practical sort of roof line, this larger quarter glass, where in the 9e, for example, you don't have a quarter glass, so it's barely there. It's got that very angular, very long kind of tail to it. This is much more practical. You have those same flush door handles, as you can see, and at the back again, it's very familiar and recognizable as a Mahindra, but it's carrying a lot of those EV traits. So you have that light signature, fully LED. Also like this honeycomb pattern, it kind of goes with what's in the front grille. Now the 9S has a manual tailgate, not a powered one like the 9e. And this is the kind of space that I have with the third row up. Now as you can see, I can put a small backpack here, maybe a few bags. But what you can do is fold this completely down, which will give you 500 liters. But the good thing is that you can fold this completely flat, and Mahindra's use this sort of function to give you something called a camp mode, where you can keep running the car's AC, the music system, the screens and so on through the night, and it will only discharge to the level that you want it to, and you'll have enough charge left the next day to get back home or whatever. Now coming to the functionality of this boot, you can see that the lip is not very high. It is slightly high but not very high, and you can sort of stack things in. Now it's not a big cavernous space like say the 9e was, but you will still get your work done. Now thankfully, even after adding a third row of seats, you still get a spare wheel. Now all the equipment, the jack and so on are here, but Mahindra has put it underneath and given you a nice sturdy cover, so your wheel will not be mucky and dirty, say if you're using it in the rain, which is a good thinking. Now the 9S continues to be based on that same Inglo skateboard architecture, which means it's rear driven. That also means that you keep getting that quite practical frunk. It's 150 liters just like in the 9e. So yeah, you can put your charging cables, maybe a few shopping bags, some things that you don't want the world to peek into from your boot. So that better practicality continues to be still there. From the front seats, the XEV 9S feels familiar. You have basically the same dash as the 9e, so the large 12.3-inch triple screen layout is front and center. The screens work in much the same way, and like before, the touchscreens could be a bit more intuitive with their menus. The driver's screen combined with the head-up display is much easier to live with. It puts out information in a clear and functional way. Here's a look at all the features and safety equipment you get with the XEV 9S. You have soft materials on the dash and most other touchpoints, although some of the less visible bits have hard plastics. Quality and fit is acceptable, but like before, we wish there were physical controls for the climate functions. The touch panel buttons on the dash could also be more responsive. You have enough storage around the center console and door bins, but not as much as some rivals. Now, in the second row is where the 9S really starts differentiating itself from a lot of other EVs, including the other Mahindras at this price point. Now, as you can see, you have that fully flat floor. That by itself gives you a lot of practicality. And with this boxier, more practical shape, you can see that I have a good deal of headroom. Yes, with this sunroof, if you're closer to 6 feet tall, then you might have your head brushing. But this is where things get really interesting. Now, the 9E had that manual boss function, but things have gotten more convenient with this powered function.
All right, and Pankaj Tripathi speaks about slowing down as an actor and his plans for turning director. He talked about protecting his mental health, his stance on copyright issues in streaming platforms, and the need to respect actors' privacy. He further spills the beans on his daughter's acting debut and shooting for Mirzapur, the film set to release in 2026. Listen to this.
आपका जो 2025 काफ़ी इंटरेस्टिंग सा साल रहा है. मेट्रो वॉज देयर ऑफ कोर्स. अभी आप यू हैव टर्न्ड अ प्रोड्यूसर. परफेक्ट फैमिली जो सीरीज आ रही है, आपका पहला सीरीज है एज अ प्रोड्यूसर. प्ले भी आपने प्रोड्यूस किया अपने बेटी के लिए. बट लेट्स टॉक अबाउट द परफेक्ट फैमिली. कैसे हुआ ये प्रोड्यूसर का जर्नी स्टार्ट? कैसे अभी करना है, आपने कैसे सोचा?
हाँ, ये कोई प्लानिंग नहीं थी, एक संयोग है महज. मैं इन दिनों पिछले 1 सालों से एक्टिंग थोड़ा कम कर रहा हूँ. तो उसमें कई पारिवारिक कारणें भी थी, घर में बीमारियाँ, परेशानियाँ. तो मैंने अभिनय थोड़ा कम किया और पहले बहुत ज़्यादा कर रहा था, बर्नआउट हो गया था. तो सिर्फ अभिनय नहीं, इंटरव्यू भी कम किया है. मैं लगभग 1 साल बाद वीडियो इंटरव्यू कर रहा हूँ.
बिल्कुल.
तो क्योंकि बोलने की बातें कुछ था नहीं मुद्दा, और थोड़ा अपने को री इन्वेंट करने में लगे हुए थे. अभी भी प्रोसेस गोइंग ऑन है. तो जब आप री इन्वेंट करने के प्रोसेस में होते हैं तो लगता है कि अपार्ट फ्रॉम एक्टिंग और मैं क्या क्या कर सकता हूँ. तो उसमें से एक पहलू आया कि यार स्टेज ने मुझे बनाया है, मैं थिएटर का ने मुझे जो भी बना हूँ थिएटर की बदौलत बना हूँ. तो मैंने, मेरी पत्नी ने बात की कि हम लोग करते हैं थिएटर वापस. तो हमने ग्रुप बनाया और रंगमंच शुरू किया, जिसमें 25-30 एक्टर इन्वॉल्व हैं, कर रहे हैं. शानदार शो किया है उन्होंने. अभी लाइलाज कल आखिरी नाइट था. उसी दरमियान अजय राय, जो जार पिक्चर्स जिनकी कंपनी है, वो मेरे पारिवारिक दोस्त हैं. आज से नहीं, गैंग्स ऑफ वासेपुर के पहले से. नीलबट्टे सन्नाटा, गुड़गांव, गैंग्स ऑफ वासेपुर, चिल्लर पार्टी, ये सब में वो प्रोड्यूसर थे, लाइन प्रोड्यूसर थे. उनकी कंपनी जार. तो एक पारिवारिक मित्रता थी. तो ये शो के बारे वो उनका शो है बेसिकली. ये जो कहानी है, उस कहानी से मैं भी मतलब कनेक्ट किया और मुझे लगा कि ये कहानी बाहर आनी चाहिए, लोगों तक पहुंचनी चाहिए. तो इस तरीके से मैं प्रोड्यूसर के तौर पे जुड़ा हूँ. मैंने पैसे नहीं लगाए हैं इसमें.
आपके फैंस का एक सवाल है आपके लिए. वो जवाब दे दीजिए प्लीज.
बोलिए.
मिर्जापुर द फिल्म कैसा चल रहा है? हाउ इज इट गोइंग?
बहुत अच्छा चल रहा है.
और फिर से कालीन भैया प्ले करना.
जी अच्छा है. और अभी उसी के शूट से आया हूँ मैं, छुट्टी लेके 2-3 दिन का, ये थिएटर के लिए और इसके लिए. फिर वापस जाऊंगा. अच्छा चल रहा है. वो उसमें क्या है कि अब 3 सीजन कर चुके हैं तो बड़ा आसान है. लेकिन चूंकि इस बार स्क्रीन बड़ा है
जी,
तो स्क्रीन बड़ा है तो फिर थोड़ा फुर्सत भी है, इत्मीनान से करना है. कहानी का स्केल बहुत बड़ा हो गया है. तो अच्छा मजा आ रहा है, मैं कर रहा हूँ.
ग्रेट.
हाँ,
चलिए, लुकिंग फॉरवर्ड टू दैट. एंड
तो अगले साल लोगों को देखने को मिलेगी नेक्स्ट ईयर.
All right, and after nervy win in Ranchi, it's Rohit and Kohli time in Raipur. India aim to seal the series while South Africa look to level it with skipper Temba Bavuma returning. But once again, all eyes will be on India's 2 biggest superstars. Take a look.
International cricket is back in Chhattisgarh, which also brings Virat Kohli and Rohit Sharma back to Raipur. The last time when these two stalwarts played at the Shahid Veer Narayan Singh Stadium, it was an absolute disaster for New Zealand because India thrashed them by 8 wickets. And interestingly, their chase ended in just 20.1 overs. But this time around, against South Africa in the second ODI, the Raipur crowd won't want that. Because what Rohit Sharma did in Ranchi was absolutely terrific. And what Virat Kohli did, that was phenomenal. Which means the senior pros are very much in form. But the concern lies with the likes of Yashasvi Jaiswal and Ruturaj Gaikwad, who could not capitalize their opportunity. Well, though Indian team acted as a unit, but there are still a few key areas which needs to be addressed not only by India but by also South Africa. For South Africa, the likes of Rand Rickalton, Aiden Markram, Quinton de Kock, all of them failed in Ranchi, and they need to fire if they want to level the series and keep it alive. For India, the challenge will be South African tail, because in Ranchi we saw how the likes of Corbin Bosch and Marco Jansen scored half centuries and took the game till the end. But India somehow pulled up a victory and now they lead the series 1-0. One more thing for South Africa, their captain Temba Bavuma, who addressed the press conference on Tuesday, is most likely to return this side. So now South Africa are planning to bounce back just to keep the series alive. But for the Raipur crowd, all eyes will be on Virat Kohli, who has been in a terrific form after scoring his 53rd ODI 100. The Raipur crowd will want more. They will also want something more from Rohit Sharma, which means the second ODI is going to be electrifying. But South Africa, they are known for not giving up. They will definitely fight. This is Akash Biswas reporting for CNN News 18 from Raipur.
All right, with that, we're going to slip into a very short break. Don't go anywhere though. News and updates will continue on the other side. Tune right back in.
This
Russian President Vladimir Putin arrives in New Delhi later this week for the 23rd annual India-Russia summit. This is the first time since 2020 and global geopolitics. It also comes against the backdrop of global tensions with Trump, who's had a testy time with India when it comes to trade and tariffs. India is the only country in the world that's paying 50% tariffs. So will the test be really in this balancing act that India has to do between America and Russia? And what can India gain from Putin's big visit? I dig a little deeper. Russian President Vladimir Putin will be in New Delhi on the 4th and 5th of December for the annual India-Russia summit. This is his first visit to India since the Ukraine war began in February of 2022, after which the entire global politics around both defense and energy have changed. This meeting carries significant diplomatic and strategic weight, coming at a time when New Delhi is recalibrating its long-standing dependence on Russian military hardware. At the same time, it's also dramatically trying to reduce its energy dependence on Russia. US President Donald Trump has made no bones of the fact that he wants India to stop buying oil from Russia. He's even slapped an additional 25% secondary tariff for the same. India says the purchase of Russian oil is a sovereign economic decision and cannot be interfered with by any other third party. Over 2 days, both the Indian and Russian leaders will review cooperation across defense, nuclear energy, hydrocarbons, space, technology, and trade. A key focus area is expected to be the next generation air defense systems, including Russia's S-500 platform. The Russian S-400 was used to shield India from drone attacks by Pakistan during Operation Sindoor back in the summer. India may sign for another batch of S-400s to be procured from Russia during President Putin's visit.
Potentially S-400 additional is not ruled out, but you don't expect any announcements during this meeting. The meeting will focus on the broader elements of institutional cooperation on defense between the two sides, and we'll try to ensure that some of these delivery delays are ended and we start getting clearer answers in terms of when some of these delayed deliveries take place.
For decades, India was overwhelmingly reliant on Moscow for its military inventory, which is
Welcome back. We're bringing to you a special segment on financial markets, which is powered by Money Control Pro, Money Control's premium destination for investing and business insights. GIFT Nifty is indicating a muted opening for Indian stock markets. Asian stock markets are showing marginal gains in morning trade. US stocks closed higher on buying in shares of technology companies. Gold prices hold steady at record highs as traders eye interest rate cuts by the US Federal Reserve. Now, India's e-commerce market is projected to grow to 15 to 18 trillion rupees in revenue by the fiscal year 2030. E-commerce penetration is expected to reach 12 to 13% of the retail market. The majority of new online shoppers will come from Tier 2 and beyond markets. This presents a strong growth opportunity for players with a digital-first approach and broad geographic reach. You can log into Money Control Pro to find out more about the e-commerce sector and other actionable insights on markets. It's the premier destination for all the investing views and financial insights you will ever need, which is brought to you by Money Control. And well, it's time now to call it a wrap on this edition of The Breakfast Club. But don't go anywhere. News and updates will continue on the other side on CNN News 18. Thank you so much for tuning in.
This is
Russian President Vladimir Putin arrives in New Delhi later this week for the 23rd annual India-Russia summit. This is the first time since 2020 and global geopolitics. It also comes against the backdrop of global tensions with Trump, who's had a testy time with India when it comes to trade and tariffs. India is the only country in the world that's paying 50% tariffs. So will the test be really in this balancing act that India has to do between America and Russia? And what can India gain from Putin's big visit? I dig a little deeper. Russian President Vladimir Putin will be in New Delhi on the 4th and 5th of December for the annual India-Russia summit. This is his first visit to India since the Ukraine war began in February of 2022, after which the entire global politics around both defense and energy have changed. This meeting carries significant diplomatic and strategic weight, coming at a time when New Delhi is recalibrating its long-standing dependence on Russian military hardware. At the same time, it's also dramatically trying to reduce its energy dependence on Russia. US President Donald Trump has made no bones of the fact that he wants India to stop buying oil from Russia. He's even slapped an additional 25% secondary tariff for the same. India says the purchase of Russian oil is a sovereign economic decision and cannot be interfered with by any other third party. Over 2 days, both the Indian and Russian leaders will review cooperation across defense, nuclear energy, hydrocarbons, space, technology, and trade. A key focus area is expected to be the next generation air defense systems, including Russia's S-500 platform. The Russian S-400 was used to shield